Hi everyone. Today we have with us Ramanpreet Kaur. She's a registered HCPC Registered Dietitian in London. Welcome, Raman, to our show.
Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Thank you. So, as we know that fad diets are in popularity these days, everybody is looking for a quick solution. They think that the psychological cost of leaving their fattening lifestyle is too much. That's why they opt for quick fixes like fad diets. Let's talk about it and explore how these fad diets are working. Is it good or bad for the healthy lifestyle, and are they ultimately giving any solutions in the long run? Let's explore then and demystify the fad diets with Raman today. So, Raman, I'll be asking few questions. Please answer those questions for our viewers.
Sure. That sounds great.
Let's start with, what is a diet?
Okay, so I think this word has led to a lot of misconceptions. So diet is anything that you eat. So everyone is on a diet. Anyone who eats anything is on a diet, because the word diet scientifically means what you eat. That's why we say, for example, if we think about an animal and we say, okay, a cow's diet is grass, for example, or I don't know, a bird's diet is seeds. So we don't think, okay, their dieting is, trying to lose weight or something. Their diet is what they eat. So the scientific term, the diet, just means what we eat. So as humans, our diet is what we are eating. But for some reason, this word has become synonymous with trying to lose weight. It has become synonymous with trying to reduce the amount you're eating generally. So when people say, oh, I'm on a diet at the moment, or I'm dieting at the moment, it generally refers to them cutting down on something in their diet. But the word really just means what you're eating. So everyone's on a diet, really.
Yeah, right. You are right. So everywhere people are saying, I'm going on a diet for 10 days maybe, and I'll be in a good shape after 10 days, ready for a beach body.
Right.
So let's talk about fad diets. What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was just saying the whole comment about, I'm going on a diet for 10 days. When you've been on a diet since the day you were born, it's just what you've been eating.
Right. Let's talk about, what are fad diets?
Absolutely. So fad diets is something I would refer to as being deficient or imbalanced in some way. So generally, fad diets, they tend to promise something in a short space of time. So for example, they would promise you losing a certain amount of weight in a short amount of time, whether it's 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, whatever it is, it tends to be a short amount of time where they promise some sort of weight loss. They tend to be an imbalanced diet because they tend to have a higher quantity of some macronutrients, whether that's carbohydrates, protein or fat, and they can be quite low and deficient in some micronutrients. So for example, if you're on a diet that's very, very low on carbohydrates and very high in fat or protein, for example, you might become deficient in vitamin C. And that's because you might not be having a lot of vitamin C products, which tend to be in a lot of fruit. So if you've cut out fruit because it contains carbohydrates, you might start to get deficient in that. So they tend to be deficient in something, and they tend to be quite high and imbalanced in their micronutrients. So that's how I would sort of identify a fad diet in that way.
Okay. And what are the common forms of fad diets?
So there are loads, and it's almost hard to keep track of how many fad diets there are. They seem to be coming out faster than any kind of new fashion or something. They seem to be as quick as that. So the common ones that I've heard are like the keto diet or the paleo diet. Intermittent fasting is very popular at the moment. Atkins has been around for a long time, but that's also, I would class as a fad diet. Smoothie cleansing diets have become really popular in the last few years. The GM, which is the General Motor diet, is something new as well. And of course, all these celebrity diets that tend to be around, these are all, coming out as well. So these are all kind of fad diets as well, because again, as I say, they tend to be high in a particular macronutrient, not balanced, and they tend to be deficient in some sort of a micronutrient.
So they're not good for your body, right? This is what you're trying to say.
Yes. So essentially the problem for fad diets, and the reason that we just keep falling for them, is because we're looking for an easy fix to lose weight. You know, most of us are, 1 in 4 of us in the UK are either overweight or obese. So it's a huge problem facing the whole of the world. And because of this, there seems to be issues around how to not just lose weight, but how to maintain it off as well. So people just keep falling for the fad diets because they seem easy. It's a lot easier to just work on yourself for 10 days than it is to continue working on yourself for 10, 20, 30 years. So it's really easy to just have some smoothies for 5, 10 days to lose a certain amount of weight, because it's easy to control ourselves for that time. But then we tend to gain the weight back. And that's why the fad diets don't work. Because yes, any diet that makes you be deficit in your energy balance. So energy balance is the amount of calories that you're consuming compared to the calories you're burning. So you burn calories when you're sitting, when you're breathing, you're respiring, you're running, walking, anything you're doing, even, housework, you're burning calories compared to the amount of calories you're taking in. And if between this balance, if there is a deficit, so if you are burning more calories than you are consuming, you will lose weight. And because of that, because you will lose weight, you tend to lose weight, and people think, oh, fad diets work, because you see the result. You see a 5-kilo weight loss, or you see a 10-kilo weight loss. But the problem is that as soon as you stop doing what the diet has told you, because they're not designed for long-term, continuing, because they are imbalanced, as soon as you stop, you tend to find that your weight goes back up. And more than that, it doesn't just go back up, but you tend to actually gain more weight than when you started as well. So for this reason, it's really not recommended to go on them. And it causes a lot of metabolic pressures on your body, because then what you're doing is this yo-yo thing. You're gaining weight, you're reducing weight, but then you gain it back and then you try and reduce it again. And it's quite a toll on your body, and probably psychologically as well, because it's not nice when you've lost weight and everyone's complimenting you, and then in a few months you've gained the weight back, and it's you kind of, all that confidence that you had, it starts to go again.
Yeah, and I think these celebrities who endorse these kind of diets, they make people forced to think that these are true things and they are helpful, and they'll make them look like the celebrity, and they'll reach their desired body type.
Absolutely. And I think, of course, I understand why people are looking for a quick fix. And of course, you look at someone you admire in the cinema or in the news, and you look at them and you this kind of unrealistic expectation of how your body should be. Body positivity and body image are such a huge issue at the moment. And it's really easy to be influenced, but you have to remember they are not health professionals. They are not someone who has, looked at the consequences of such diets. There are diets out there that can actually be dangerous for your health, because if they're imbalanced and if they are deficient in micronutrients, that can have symptoms in your body. If you become deficient in vitamin C over a long, long term, one of the things was sailors in the olden days used to take lots and lots of lemons with them when they would go on their shipping expeditions. And that's because they developed scurvy, because all the food that they were taking was lacking in vitamin C. So they developed scurvy because of that. So long-term deficiency in vitamin C can cause that. And there's other vitamins that can cause other issues as well. And that's why it's really important not to do fad diets for a long time. And they're not designed for that, but they can be dangerous. So I think it's really good that, Health Click Away is taking this opportunity to clarify this for the public out there.
Thank you. Because I've seen many people, and most of them are like obsessed with this weight loss things, and they just want to get rid of the weight loss, taking any route. they are not thinking about the healthy aspect or unhealthy aspect of those steps which they are taking. So that's why we thought let's demystify the fad diets, explore more about it, and let the people know what they are doing with their body. They should do in a healthy way.
Absolutely. And it's about making changes which are sustainable. You know, none of these fad diets can lead to sustainable weight loss. Yeah.
And why do we keep falling for fad diets? Is it because of this thing that the weight loss is in everybody's dream thing is now that even if somebody is lean, they still want to reduce 1 or 2 kgs more.
Exactly. And I think related to that is, you know, knowing what's a healthy weight for you. So again, you can go onto the Health Clickaways website to calculate your BMR, which is using your height and weight. It's a ratio between your height and weight to calculate what a healthy level of weight is for your height. So if the healthy range is between 18.5 to 24.9, and actually for South Asians, because we are more prone to health issues such as diabetes and heart disease, our actual sort of cutoff for our BMI is even lower, and it's actually around 22 or 23. We are then at that point classed as overweight. So it's really important that you know what a healthy weight for you is. So once you know your healthy BMI, so I would say everyone should maybe perhaps be aiming around 20 or 21, unless, of course, the healthcare professional has said something different. And then from that, they can see where to go. I think at the moment, especially young girls, young women, there's so many pressures on, you know, needing to look slim, again, because of celebrities and the media. It's really important to kind of have that limit as well, that, you know, once you get to your target weight, you don't continue to try and reduce your weight, and being happy with the way you look, being happy with the way your body is, and trying to do it in a natural way, which are all things the app Health Clickaway kind of endorses and believes in as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure at the moment in sort of men and women to, you know, look a certain way. And it can impact our psychology and how we go about doing it. And it's all about fast results, you know, at the moment.
Right. So our next question is, there is no shortage of diet promising life-changing results. But if they are so great, why do new diets keep popping up every year?
Yeah. And ultimately, the short answer for that is because these fad diets don't work. And that's why you see more and more of them coming up each year. Because yes, they work short term. As I say, you know, anything that makes you have a deficit in your energy balance, you will lose weight. That's science, you know, that's a fact. You will lose weight. However, as soon as you go back to your old diet and your old pattern, you will gain the weight back. And that's the problem, really. So that's why these new diets keep popping up each time, because they don't really solve the problem.
We're just looking for short-term solutions, right?
Yes, exactly.
Immediate relief.
Yeah.
How does a detox diet work?
Okay, so really interesting. And I think this kind of links to this smoothie diet that I mentioned a little bit earlier. So a lot of these kind of detox diets talk about going on a liquid cleanse, for example, where you just have something liquid for a week or 2 weeks, or trying to eat certain foods which have a cleansing effect on your body. And the reason that this is sort of rubbish is because you have the best detoxing organs in the world. You know, you have your kidneys and you have your liver, and these are the best detox kind of machines you could ever need. So you don't need to do anything. The only thing you can do to help your organs, and that includes your liver and your kidneys, is to have a healthy, balanced diet, drink enough fluids in the day. And a healthy, balanced diet should include a good amount of fiber, a good amount of fruits and vegetables. Drinking lots of water or other fluids can help your kidneys work to their best. And also by cutting down on alcohol, if that is something you drink, will help your liver. And if your liver and your kidneys are, working well, then you don't need to worry about any of these detox diets, because they don't really work. It just because you're having lots of liquid smoothies, or you're having, foods which are supposed to be less straining on your body, is not going to cleanse your body. You have your kidneys and your liver to do that.
Right. And some people get that results within 10 days and they are happy. And that's why they keep believing on those things. But they don't think that they are harming their body more than they are doing good to it.
Yeah, I think especially if you fall for kind of doing these fad diets often. So, for example, if, you are going on a fad diet maybe twice or 3 times a year, where you lose a significant amount of weight, and generally what will happen is you will lose it in a really short space of time. So you will tend to lose maybe 5 or 10 kilos in 5 or 10 days. And when people hear that, they get really excited. They think, oh my God, that's amazing. That's what I want to do. But what happens is that amount of weight loss is not healthy. It can lead to some deficiencies. It can lead to a high toxicity in your blood. It can also lead to some metabolism issues later down in the line, depending on your overall health. So if you lose that much weight that quickly, it has consequences. And on top of that, as I say, none of this is going to be long-term, because you're not following this long-term. So when you go back to your old diet, you're going to start to gain the weight back. And this kind of yo-yoing up and down of the weight has a huge impact on your body, and a huge impact on your psychology as well. And it's just not healthy long-term, or in the short term. You might look better, depending on what you want to kind of see yourself as. But again, it's not a long-term solution to the issue.
Right, exactly. And do fad diets actually work, or it's just a myth?
Yeah. So as I say, they work to lose weight. So you do lose weight as long as there is a calorie deficit. But fad diets will be deficient in micronutrients. And that means that if you carry on doing them over a long period, you will start to see consequences. One of the things about rapid weight loss is you can start to notice thinning of hair. So your hair can thin. Another issue sometimes is if you lose the weight really quickly, or if you're quite overweight or obese, that your skin can become quite loose, because where you've lost the weight, the skin hasn't had time to kind of shrink back up, depending on your age as well. And that can lead to a whole host of other issues as well. So the recommended sort of amount of weight loss is between 0.5 to 2 kilos per week. 2 kilos being the sort of, the maximum end. Generally, we recommend 0.5 to 1 kilo per week, and which is I think around 2 pounds per week for sort of American measurements. So if you're aiming for 2 pounds per week, that's fantastic. And if you're doing it in a healthy way, that's brilliant. But these fad diets generally won't do that. They tend to be sort of very short term, rapid weight loss, which, as I say, leads to consequences and isn't good for your health and doesn't offer you anything long term.
Right. So how do you identify a fad diet?
Yeah, really interesting question. And I think you identify it by looking at the macro and micronutrient kind of quantity of them. So if you're using the Health Click Away app, you can put in there sort of what you're having on the fad diet, for example, and you can see the breakdown of the macronutrients. So you can see how much fat does it have, how much carbohydrates does it have, how much protein does it have. So the healthy balanced diet that's recommended by the guidelines is that you should have 50% carbohydrates in your diet. You should have 35% fat, and you should have 15% protein. So if you're having, if you're on a diet that is causing a disbalance, and generally we tend to see the carbohydrate reduced and the protein or the fat increase, you know that this is an imbalance, and perhaps it is a fad diet, and it perhaps isn't something you can continue long term. And that one, you're going to have to look at the micronutrient of it. So, you would have to look at how many fruits and vegetables am I having? Because again, you could be on a diet such as a ketogenic diet, which has a really high fat quantity and a very small carbohydrate quantity. But as I said earlier, if that means that you're not having enough fruits and vegetables in your diet, you could get deficient in a certain micronutrient, and that can cause lots of issues later on. So it's really looking at the whole diet altogether, and also about how long you're doing it as well.
Okay. So one question came into my mind. How, like you just said, some diets are stopping you from taking carbs, and they are making you take high protein or fat. So how the body is going to react, or what are the side effects if somebody is taking high protein or high fat, or maybe somebody is taking high carbs? What are the side effects of? Can you explain it a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the simplest one, carbohydrates. So having too many carbohydrates it can lead to you having hyperglycemia. So anytime that we have carbohydrates or even fat and even some proteins, what happens to our blood sugar levels is that when you eat it, it gets digested. It causes an increase in the amount of sugar in your blood. Okay, so, when people have diabetes, it's because they cannot control the level of sugar in their blood, and it's related to a hormone called insulin. Now, when you eat a lot of carbohydrates, because carbohydrates cause the most increase in your blood sugar levels, what's going to happen is that your sugar levels are going to go high quite a lot if you're just mainly having carbohydrates and not having a balance of fat and protein with your meals. The issues with that is that it has been linked with some people later on developing diabetes, depending on the type of carbohydrate that you're having. So if you're having a lot of white refined carbohydrates, such as, a lot of sugary foods, a lot of sugary drinks, that has also been linked with weight gain and, again, diabetes as well. So those are kind of some of the side effects that can potentially happen with having a really high carbohydrate diet. Plus, you can also find that you tend to be a bit lower in energy because carbohydrates get digested quite quickly within sort of 2 to 3 hours of having them, depending on how you eat them. So in liquid form, they get digested even quicker. They get digested quite quickly. So it means that you get hungrier more often, or you tend to you don't feel as full for longer than you would if you included a little bit of protein or fat in your diet. Now, of course, this can be manipulated if, for example, in this really high carbohydrate diet, you're having lots of fruits and you're having the fibrous fruits. That can make the digestion process longer because of fiber. So, this can be manipulated slightly, but as a general, those can be the side effects. So sometimes if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, because you get hungrier quicker, you tend to end up eating more because you just are hungrier, more often. Now, in a diet that's really high in fat, for example, you can have issues with your liver. So if you're already sort of on the obese side, you might have something called a fatty liver already. So the fat has kind of started to gather around your liver, and your doctor or your healthcare professional would be able to advise you if that's something you suffer with. On a diet that's really high in fat can make that worse. And also for some people, it can cause side effects such as having heartburn, or if, for example, you take a certain medication. So there's over-the-counter kind of diet pills out there, and some of them bind to fat, and that's how they help you lose weight. Now, again, they're not recommended, because if you have something that's binding to fat, so you're essentially not absorbing that macronutrient, you are just passing it through you. If you're having that, but then you're also having a high fat meal, that can have lots of side effects of sort of related to your gut and the amount of times you have to open your bowels. So heartburn is a common side effect of having a really high fat diet. It can also lead to things like headaches, because at the end of the day, your body needs some carbohydrates. Your body is designed that way. if sugar or carbohydrates is the main fuel for your brain. So if you are cutting it down to such a low quantity, it is not necessarily natural. And if you look at nature, no food is completely a protein or completely a fat or completely a carbohydrate. You look in nature, fruit contains some protein, it contains some fat, it contains carbohydrates. You look
Right.
at grains, they contain all three macronutrients. So we are meant to have all three, otherwise, in nature, they would be clusters. You would have just, okay, yeah, this fruit is just fat, or this vegetable is just a protein. But that
Exactly.
doesn't happen in nature. It comes in threes, it comes all together. So we are built to have those things. And if you have a diet that's really high in protein, that's been linked to bowel issues, so not getting enough, not being able to pass your bowels as freely. It's also been linked with later on issues with your kidneys, because it's your kidneys that pass your excess protein. Because protein is one thing that we can't store in the body. We can store sugar because it gets or carbohydrates because it gets converted into fat. And as we know, we can store fat, but we can't actually store protein unless it's been turned into sort of muscle. So it gets metabolized, or it gets broken down very quickly by our body, and it's passed into our urine. That's where we get the name, actually, urine. It comes from the word urea. So it gets passed out quite quickly from our body. We can't store it. So it can have lots of kind of issues with your kidneys as well. There is a link. It's not strong, but there is a link in the research literature around it as well. So I think a healthy, balanced diet is the way to go. That's how nature is. There is no kind of pure, even chicken, that's quite high in protein, contains some fat, contains some carbohydrates.
Right. Yeah. So you're also trying to say that moderation is the key. Even the good things or the bad things, everything you have to take in moderation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And in the app, if anybody wants to put their whatever they're eating, even the ingredients, they have their macronutrients, and they can have a look. Even the micronutrients, the fiber part also, or anything like sodium or anything they want to track, they can track. So I think if somebody is following the app, they know what they are eating, and whatever you are eating is going to help you. If you're eating good, it's going to help you. Healthy mind is what is a healthy body.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
So just suggest some sensible ways to lose weight, and which is sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's about making small changes, and it's about looking at the long term. So don't think about summer body. Don't think about, your holiday coming up in a month's time. You have to think long term. You have to, for you, this body has taken a long time to get where it is, and it's going to take a long time to get it to where it was, if that's your goal. So a sensible way to kind of aim for weight loss, as I say, is aiming for 0.5 to 1 kilogram per week. And you can achieve that by reducing around 500 calories per day. So if, for example, you come from a South Asian background and you make chapati or roti every day, the 500 calories can come from perhaps taking a smaller amount of flour when you're making your chapati. If you take 40 grams normally, cut it down to 20, because then psychologically you're still having 2 chapatis, for example, but the amount of calories that you use in it, you've cut down. If you have, sugar in your tea, then, if you're currently having 1 teaspoon, cut it down to 3/4, so 3 3/4. And then, go use that for 2 weeks, and then slowly cut it down again. Just retrain your taste buds. Don't cut out anything completely. Make small changes, because those are going to be sustainable, and those are what you can carry on for a long time. Increase your physical activity, and all of this you can track on the Health Click Away app as well, which can make it a lot easier.
Yes, true. And I just came up with something that to have to enjoy a long life. I think this is a very deep thing, and I want to leave my viewers with this thinking. To enjoy a long life, you have to have a healthy body.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Raman. Thank you so very much for coming to our live and helping our viewers. in their doubts and their queries. And I hope they'll take some good thinking from here and they can help themselves in staying healthy and happy.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see you in our next live too.
Absolutely. And I wish everyone the best of luck with their health goals as well.
Yes. Thank you, Raman.
Thank you.